Okay, so before we get the official meeting started, just to bring everybody up to speed, we can't get the tech issue resolved, so we're recording the meeting. We will make it available to everyone just as quickly as possible. And Mrs. Lynn is emailing all of our channels so that they can step away. Okay.
I'd like to call to order the Roselle School District 12 regular board meeting at 7:07 p.m. Roll call, please.
Zurich?
Here.
Cammy? Here. Doris? Here. Albert?
Here.
Claire?
Here.
Here.
Here. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
No, they're not.
Okay. Communications. Moving right along to visitor input. This is the time during the meeting in which the public is invited to provide comments. In keeping with board policy 2:230, we ask that visitors address the board only at the appropriate time as indicated on the agenda when recognized by the board president. Please introduce yourself and keep your comments to 2 minutes so that everyone who wishes to address the board may do so. The board and members of the administration do not respond to public comments, questions, or concerns will be referred to Dr. Henderson, and you will receive follow-up communication from her. We have one person who's indicated.
Thank you, Pedro. Your mics right here? Awesome. I'll try not to shout. I watched the social emotional learning presentation last month, and I think we can all agree it was an exemplary time and effort well spent. But children are not unique in their need for social and emotional well-being. So I'm asking the board and Dr. Henderson to implement a similar intentional approach for school staff, teachers, and administration. How much are we doing to ensure their social and emotional well-being? How will we know if they need extra help? Their well-being rubs off on the kids, and that research, the core of it, I think, could be used for many things. My next part is about meetings. So in the past 6 months, I couldn't help but notice I've met with my U.S. House Rep, 3 state senators, 4 state House Reps, the president of the board of the DuPage County Health Department, 5 county commissioners, 5 school board members from other districts, and I'll be departing early to meet with another commissioner. So my question is honest, and I want you to consider it. Why is it that I can sit down and meet with members of other school districts, but not my own publicly elected officials who have sworn to foster extensive participation in the community? I did hear that I can come to a meet and greet, which is in 5 months or 150 days. And in 150 days, we will all have different problems and need different solutions. So I'm asking for you to please reconsider, because I don't think this is fostering participation. I think it can be fostering negative things. So I'm trying to keep it to 2 minutes. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along, we are moving to election of temporary officers. Motion, please.
I move that the board appoint Dr. Mary Henderson as president pro tem and Mrs. Joanne Dumel as secretary pro tem.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Robert?
Aye.
Cammy? Aye. Zurich?
Aye.
Doris? Aye. Claire?
Aye.
Candace? Aye. McGowan?
Aye.
Okay, next we will move into board reorganization. May I have a roll call of board members? Zurich?
Here.
Cammy? Here. Doris? Here. Robert?
Here.
Claire?
Here.
Candace? Here. McGowan?
Here.
Thank you. Next, we will do establishment of term of office. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the board establish a 1-year term of office for president, vice president, and secretary of the Board of Education.
Second.
Any discussion?
call please. Agnes?
Aye.
Mayor?
Aye.
Zurich?
Aye.
Kami? Aye. Juris?
Aye.
Hubbard?
Aye.
McGowan?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we will move into election of the president of the Board of Education. May I have a motion, please?
I move that James McGowan be named president of the Board of Education.
May I have a second?
So second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please. Hubbard?
Aye.
Zurich?
Aye.
Kami? Aye. Juris?
Aye.
Claire?
Aye.
Agnes?
Aye.
McGowan?
Aye.
Okay, and at this point, Jen, you're going to take the lead.
Next will be the election of the Vice President of Board of Education. I have a motion, please. I move that Kim Duris be named Vice President of the Board of Education.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Roll call.
McGowan?
Aye.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Zurich?
Aye.
Kami? Aye. Juris?
Aye.
Claire?
Aye.
Agnes?
Next, we'll move to the election of the Secretary of Board of Education. I have a motion.
I move that Tim Lair be named Secretary of the Board of Education.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Juris?
Aye.
Kami? Aye. Zurich?
Aye.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Claire?
Aye.
Agnes?
Aye.
McGowan?
Aye. Next, we'll move to establish the 2022-2023 schedule of regular meetings. Can I get a motion, please?
I move that the board approve the regular meeting dates for 2022-2023 as submitted.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Zurich?
Aye.
Agnes?
Aye.
Kami? Aye. Juris?
Aye.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Claire?
Aye.
McGowan?
Okay, next we will move to the superintendent.
Is Mary still? Mary here? Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
I was like, I can hear you, but I didn't see you. I just had a quick question regarding the meet and greets.
Yes.
I do see they're on here. We did have one already, right?
Yes, we did.
Okay, just want to make sure. I thought I participated in one.
Okay. That's the one where I had COVID.
Okay.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. At this time, I would like to ask our 2020-2021 return to learn team to come up here. And if you could just face the audience in the curve. Now, just like we would with our kids, if you want to wave to anyone who might be walking. I would love for you to be facing the board, but I want the audience to be able to see you. And honestly, I'm gonna try not to cry because when I started working on what I wanted to say for this, I went back to our very first meeting when this group got together, July 8th, I think it was, of 2020. And we worked and we worked and we worked, we met all day long. And when I look at the plan I presented to the board the next week, it was 33 slides of information. Because I walked the community through every option that we talked about. We talked about staying all remote. And yet this team felt that, no, we know for kids, if we see the kids in person, we know that's best for them. So this team put their fears aside and went forward with one direction. We looked at, did we do half days so we could get around the whole lunch issue which we were rightly so concerned about. And it was this team who said, no, that's not good for families. Because if parents are back at work, they need someplace for their child to go the other extra day. And if they're going off to various daycares, that's just going to increase the risk to everyone. So it was this team over and over again, as we looked at options, different scenarios. Again, like the number of issues and details that this team tackled and worked on was unbelievable. The easier thing would have been to stay remote, wait for other districts to do it, and follow their lead. Instead, this team took the lead. And so to be recognized by the state of Illinois in their Those Who Excel program as an exemplary team across the state of Illinois is something we should be so very proud of. We could not have done this without this team. I could not have done anything, led anything without you leading. You didn't lead from behind, you led in front, and you were there for your family of you and grateful for all you do. And so happy that you've been recognized by the state for all you do, because it was for our kids and you never lost sight of that. So thank you very much. I don't know if anyone on the board would like to add anything.
I would just like, if you're comfortable with that, I'd like you to call out your own name or be called.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because I just.
That's what I was gonna
want
start with.
Who these wonderful people are.
Ashley, why don't you start?
I'm Ashlyn Cullen, eighth grade English and Arts. Lisa Steiner, instructional coach. Deb Burns, school social worker at Spring Hills. Bree Kelly, fifth grade teacher. Jessica Ike, EL teacher.
Jeff Fontenot, physical education teacher.
Mandy Lumber, kindergarten. Abby Schnorr, second grade. Sarah Shane, intervention.
Kevin Trainer, media center specialist.
Sorry. And there are a few other members who weren't able to join us this evening, so thank you, Chris, for that.
Well, I was saying, I would just like to say thank you, because that school year I have 3 children, 2 of them in this district and 1 at Lake Park. And Lake Park, obviously, a high school is much bigger, did not have a return to learn in person option. And I could see the difference in what kind of experiences my children were having. And definitely my ones in District 12 had a much more successful and positive school year, when many of, my friends' kids were struggling. And I'm just so proud to be part of this district and so thankful that you all made it happen for all of the families. So congratulations. I'm so glad you're being recognized.
I think I've been on record during COVID. It's just really complimenting the staff as a general name of staff. But I would just piggyback on Amy's comments on, we fought pretty hard to make sure that the opportunity to be in school, was supported, because we all believed in that. But you guys made that all, as Mary said already, you executed it from day one with a lot of question marks about where you're going. Like you're going into a tunnel, and you brought all the kids through the tunnel, and hopefully past the tunnel, who knows? But just the process and the journey, I think everybody's learned something along the way, in addition to all the learning that was planned. Thank you for all your efforts. I can't tell you how proud. You're gonna make the school board members cry too. So we're just so proud of what you guys have done and will do even going forward. So thank you individually and collectively.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you again from the board, but more importantly as a parent. My 2 girls had wonderful experiences, and it's all due to the work and you guys did. We appreciate that.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of you hand in hand. And this was just an amazing experience, amazing group of people. I felt like the entire staff was bonded at this time, in the sense that, we were all pulling for the same goal, is to keep our kids in school. And so many of the districts around us were just not being successful. They weren't, up to speed on technology. We figured that problem out. We got them learning and kept them learning, and our test scores have shown that. So we've lived through something, right? If we can be managing a global pandemic, which none of us have experience doing that, and we're also advancing academics for our kids, that's just amazing. So thank you.
I would just like to add thank you for all of behind the scenes work, and so much during the past couple of years has been heavily focused on the negative aspect of what's going on in the world, what's going on in the community level, in the school system, and not much attention is given individually to those that are out there working with the kids, whether it was the in-person students, the remote students. I think, being able to see some of that behind the scenes of what all of our teachers, regardless of which option they were teaching during that year, just continuing to put on a smile for the students, whether on camera or in person, and you guys representing what needed to happen and taking all the hits along the way and yet continuing to do it. So it's nice to be able to highlight a positive piece, because anytime you're making strides, there's still a piece of like, well, that's great, but what next? And that can be very much a defeated feeling at times. And so I'm just excited that you guys are able to receive this recognition to acknowledge the hard work you guys do.
I was gonna say, I appreciate first off seeing some of you because you taught me at Spring Hill and Roselle. But I was there. But also,
That may not feel like the compliment you think. As someone of age, I'm just.
I had to say something. I haven't seen somebody in a while. But also, I honestly really appreciate you guys for doing this because I know it's a lot of hard work. So, and it's really, very, very tough to navigate this, and we're still moving forward with this. So, appreciate it.
I just want to not only thank you guys, but everybody else in your lives and at home. But child too. So thank you very much to all of them that stay after being a tough one.
I would like to add one thing in addition, and Steve brought up a good point about just the development of the learning, going forward. Well, two things happened in addition to all the obvious the things stated. One is you've tried to address the gap in learning, any slippage that happened because of COVID, where there was just that, we saw the numbers maybe slip backwards. You guys were on it and still are, but I think it was last month's meeting, just to see the development plans. Those would be fantastic if there was no COVID and it was just a normal school year. But wow, I mean, that's impressive. We're really proud of that piece, and I think Steve pointed it out, and I want to make sure I went back and circle back. Thanks.
All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you for being here tonight. Now I'm turning it over to Kelly.
Good evening, Board of Education and families and everybody visiting here today. I am very excited to share with you our continued growth that we're trying to make as far as curriculum and teaching and learning in Roselle District 12. And I am here today for two presentations to share with you. Last month, I was able to share with you the process that we were making in adopting a new English Language Arts resource. And so I'm excited to share some more information about that in just a moment. But I'd like to start with sharing another curriculum project that we started this year and share a little bit about where we are in the process of that. And that is to align with your strategic goal of completing a social studies curriculum review including selection of resources for grades 6 through 8 by the year 2022. So here we are, and I'm excited to share with you today the progress that we have made so far. All sorts of so as everything that we do with our curriculum and every time that we meet as a staff, we go back through our beliefs that all students are our students, that everybody in District 12 must learn, must grow. We want to continue being rigorous. We want to continue being on the cutting edge. And even through the pandemic and everything that the wonderful Return to Learn team did, we still set our sights on, okay, but we still have goals. We still need to move into the next phase of what we're doing in the classroom. And then also with the social studies conversations, we really talked a lot about that third bullet point here, that we want our classrooms to be that safe space where we prioritize relationships and we make connections. In the social studies classroom, that's a great area to learn a little bit more about everybody's backgrounds and a little bit more about what it means to be inclusive. And so that was one that we really took to heart during the social studies review. So before I jump in, I just wanted to say thank you in advance to our 6th through 8th grade curriculum leadership team. And that consisted of Jonathan Lobley, who is our 6th grade social studies teacher, Joel Simberger, who is our 7th grade social studies teacher, Dan Nowak, who is our 8th grade social studies teacher, and Lisa Steiner, who is our instructional coach. So this was really the team that did all of the work that I'm excited to share with you today. So thank you to all of the time, effort, and energy that team worked on with me. So just an overview of our process, kind of like when we do all of our different curriculum reviews, we talk about our data, how are our students doing in the middle school social studies classroom, and then what's really going on kind of in the world with current events. We continue to get more Illinois state mandates. Do the resources we have really align with what our students need? So that was really where the conversation started. And we decided as a team that it was time to really take a look at what else is out there that our current resources were not meeting the demands that we wanted to continue to see our students grow. So we wanted to find things that were going to be a little bit more flexible than a very traditional old textbook that we're going to hold on to for years and years. Those we don't find to be super flexible. We struggle to find where we're going to fit in current events. We struggle to find in areas where you can implement more of the state mandates that are actually relevant in those different times of the scope and sequence of the learning. So we were really looking for things out there that were a little bit more flexible and kind of an old traditional, what you might think of as a traditional social studies classroom. So we used the district strategic plan and our goals and our instructional framework. And we use that in the social studies classroom of where can we really scaffold and differentiate for our students so that we know that they're all mastering the content that we need, but we also want them to have a lot of discourse, a lot of talking about topics in social studies. We want them to have a lot of nonfiction reading strategies. We want them to do a lot of writing. So we wanted to incorporate all of the different types of what we know as best practice of instruction into the social studies classroom as well. So we looked at a lot of different resources that were out there to get this work started. And we wanted to make sure they were inquiry-based. Our new social studies standard really required that students are asking a lot of questions. And they're starting to navigate the direction of kind of where learning goes versus that traditional textbook. This is the perspective of what happened in time. We want kids to be able to analyze multiple perspectives and then figure out the impact that it made on where we are today in the world. We also really wanted cultural responsiveness in our social studies resources. We want to make sure that we're using culturally relevant teaching strategies and that we were seeing different perspectives from all different cultures and the impact and the contribution that all those different cultures have made in our country and in our world. And then of course we wanted to focus on, are there enough critical thinking skills, enough analysis skills, all of those things that our students need to be lifelong learners, to be successful outside of our school district. So we found a resource that we really thought was going to meet our needs and created a rubric and analyzed it, and piloted some lessons, discussed quite a bit about it a lot, and really thought that that one resource was going to be what we thought was best for the students in Roselle District 12. The resource that we have chosen, the leadership team for social studies thought that it was both user-friendly for the students and the teacher. They found the text to be very engaging, student appropriate, and very accessible. They liked that there was a variety of different formative assessments, so we can constantly be monitoring and checking for students' understanding, and a lot of different differentiated materials so that they could meet the students with wherever they were, whether they needed some additional support, reteaching, trying to see something a different way, or to kind of extend and broaden students' ideas and opinions, especially if it was a topic they're very passionate about. They thought that the resource had a plethora of primary sources, which is a really important part of our social studies standards, is that we can actually use primary sources and analyze them. And then they thought that they had good extension and challenging activities and readings for students that needed a little bit more, need a little bit of enrichment, that were picking up on concepts and understanding things quickly. So to honor the work of the social studies leadership team, I'm here today to ask for board approval to do a 30-day public display of the social studies curriculum that the leadership team has thought best fit the needs that we have for the students and staff in those offices. Questions?
Is this strictly digital or is there a text that comes with it?
So there is some text that comes with it. The leadership team didn't feel that we needed to buy a book for every student because it is so flexible, but there is print. So we landed that they thought it would be best if we just had a class set so that we could really, as the classes come in, we could really focus in on those nonfiction strategies. They can have the actual text in front of them, but we didn't feel it was needed to have a hard copy book for every single student because everything is actually digital. It is a digital program, but when we're teaching nonfiction reading strategies, we felt that a lot of kids benefit from having a hard book in front of them.
So when would you start the 30 days, right?
Yeah, so I will start it tomorrow. So just as we did for the language arts process, we'll post it on the district website. And then I also have a survey linked to it. So if any community members have any input, they can, it's a Google form. They can fill it out with any of their thoughts, questions, comments, or concerns.
Is this something that the feeder districts are going to, or are we?
For social studies adoption or for
digital?
Yeah, I think when we look at resources that are out there, a lot of companies are going in that direction. Again, there's a lot of pros to having everything digital. Kids have access to it all the time. I think it depends on what your goals are. And since we do have some strategic goals of nonfiction reading, that's where we were kind of like, you know what, let's be flexible. We want to make sure that we provide that for every kid. I don't know exactly what Lake Park's social studies curriculum materials look like, if it's all digital.
And that may vary by course.
Yeah.
You know, American history to 1865.
And so if the pilot is successful, then with this, and this is implemented, is kind of the glide path to do this with more subject matter.
Yeah, so our next steps would be pending board approval next month as we would move forward with this new resource for 6 through 8. And then I already have some dedicated teachers at K-5 who are ready to jump in and do the same process K-5 next year with social studies. So that will be kind of where we will be our next steps, and then making sure that we're able to bridge that 5th through 6th grade if it ends up being a different type of resource, because the K-5 standards are written very different than the 6-8 standards as far as social studies goes.
Stephen, were you asking in other content areas, are we moving to more digital overall, or were you talking about social studies?
Well, yeah, because I think both of my kids have like 25 pound book bags, and I'm wondering if we're moving in a direction or they're not carrying a bag of rocks every day.
So our math resource that we just approved last year is both digital and then there's a consumable for kids to write through and write all the problems and things in. But there's not like a hard book for some of the grade levels. And in a few more minutes, I'm going to be sharing with you our recommendation for language arts. And it is both as well. So there's a lot of digital content. 6th through 8th grade, there's more of like a consumable workbook for the kids to write in and everything. And then in the younger grades, it's a lot more small books.
I just, memory serves me, when you did the process review for ELA, you had said you were choosing 2 different curriculum texts for K through 5, right? And I remember, okay. Is the reason you didn't do, K through 5 as well as 6th, 7th, and 8th for social studies because the standards are so differently or are done so different?
Well, in social studies, a lot of the companies don't develop K-8 for a few different reasons, because they are different, they're very different. But we also, in our K-5 building, we just rolled out a new math curriculum last year. This year, we reviewed our language arts curriculum. So to try to do that simultaneously with social studies would have been very difficult for us to do and maintain the momentum that we are making right now. And we also wanted to stay true to the strategic goal that we got this work, done by 2022. And the social studies teachers at the middle school were hungry to do this work. Not saying that K-5 teachers weren't, but with the new math rollout, now knowing that there's a language arts that makes sense. They just really wanted to kind of focus in and learn and do professional and one quality curriculum. Going to ELA. Okay. Well, I'm also very excited to share with you where we are on our English language arts curriculum review. So we just finished our 30-day public display on our website. And before I get started, I just wanted to do a shout out one more time to our English language arts curriculum leadership team. This was a K-8 team, so there's a few more people involved. And we have a lot of specialists that were involved in this as well. We have our interventionists, we have an EL teacher, special ed teacher. So a lot of people came together to do this important work, and again, spent a lot of hours and a lot of time, effort, and energy in this process. So we really focused on the overarching goals that we have in the district, and we created our own goal when we first started to meet. And that was to examine academic programs that would optimize student learning experiences and provide continual professional development. We want to go back to that goal that everyone in District 12 is learning, is growing. So we did some research and some of our own learning. And one of the things that we hooked onto were the 5 characteristics of highly effective language arts teaching and learning. And we really read into all 5 of these different content areas and the characteristics of what that looks like in the classroom for the teacher and the characteristics of what that looks like for the students. And as we continue to learn a little bit more about what best practice actually looks like, so we can align resources that are going to allow us and give us those opportunities to do that, we started to shade different areas that we thought we could grow in as a district. We started to shade them in green. And as we were shading them and more people were deciding this is an area that we want to do better, the darker green those phrases were getting. And then at the end, those darker green ones really became our goals. And when we're looking at resources, if we know this is an area right now, we want to do more for our students, then we need to make sure that the resources we pick are really strong in those skills. And that really helped our decision-making process. So in kindergarten through 5th grade, the English language arts curriculum leadership team is recommending Benchmark Advanced. And Benchmark Advanced has a strong social emotional learning component attached to it and a very strong cultural inclusiveness. This company works really, really hard on making sure that students in your class are going to see themselves in the stories, in the authors, and in the books that they pick up. This is one of the things they pride themselves on. They also are very, very strong company for helping our English language learners. They create a lot of resources for our English language learners. They actually create some dual language resources as well. We were teaching some Spanish language acquisition as well. So that's a really big strength of this company. And with that also comes that their strength is really knowing how to assess where all of your kids are and then how you're going to meet the needs of each and every one of the students in front of you. And they do that through a lot of small group work, flexible small groups based off of different skills. Students need to be really challenged and enriched. Students need to just reinforce and practice, or students that need some extra guidance and remediation, really try to help them close their gaps. And we also found that this program had very explicit instruction in a systematic way of the foundations of it. That's one of the things that we talked about last time. We learned a little bit more about the science of reading, and really trying to balance all of the different ways that kids learn how to read. And we thought that the structure and the system that this resource has really would fit and meet all of our students. In 6th through 8th grade, we are recommending a resource called Study Sync. And this resource is really rigorous for our students, which we're really excited about. There have been some of our students that are really, really shining, and we're constantly challenging and engaging them. This resource really has a lot of materials for our teachers to be able to do that and really, really stretch and help all of those kids that need that extra challenge. This resource also is very strong in the cultural relevancy, and they're very proud of having multiple cultures of authors, having multiple cultures of thematic units, novel studies that kind of line with different themes, but from a variety of different novels. And they also have different themes woven in that support students with their social emotional learning, topics that are built into the storylines and into the plots of the texts that are provided to students. Our teachers thought that the texts were very engaging. The students really liked them. The students had a lot of positive comments when they were able to pilot them. They thought they were relevant, they were excited about them, and the teachers thought that the scaffolding for the students was really impressive. That was the word that I was excited to hear. I thought it was impressive the way that you could take a skill and say, okay, here's what you could do with this skill with different levels of your students, and really helps you assess where they are so you can meet every student. So just to align more with our strategic plan. So one of our goals is that the instructional framework will be implemented. And so for our English language arts, we wanted to make sure that our resources supported that goal of our instructional framework. And so we want to make sure that we had whole group instruction resources, small group, independent practice, that we had all of those equitable resources for meeting all the students' needs, and that we were really building up their stamina for some more independent reading so they could read longer, dig deeper into their text, and really help build them their self-efficacy to really try to instill some lifelong learning in them and a love of reading and writing. We also have a strategic goal of making sure that we're using learning targets, that we understand what those targets are, that we're clear on the the standards of the state. And so we looked at both of these resources and we felt that they really help build that foundational language, comprehension, really strong integration of reading and writing, variety of assessments, and again, a strong English language learner component to support our students. We also have a strategic goal to identify some math and reading interventions that can really help support our students. And we believe that both these resources have a lot of scaffolded opportunities for students to work and practice their skills until they have them mastered. Resources for all different levels of what students might need, and that really align and support our 3 tiers of responding to intervention. Our tier 1 for all, our tier 2 little extra for students that either need to be challenged or supported, and then our tier 3 for students that need to be enriched or need extra support. And we have a strategic goal to establish professional development based off of the needs of our teachers. And so we found that both of these programs had strong professional development opportunities that really can be catered to the needs of our teachers. We do have some thrown in professional development to help us with our implementation, but then there's also a lot of different professional opportunities, modules teachers can watch anytime, they have on-demand access to things, so they're not all having to watch and participate professionally on things that's not what they need. They can identify what they need in their implementation and the life of the program to help support them. So just some of the great comments that came through both these resources, that the student-led rich discussions, that really hits home with me. That was one of those areas that we thought we really could improve more, is getting our kids back together, talking more, getting closer together. We've been apart for a long time, so we really wanted to make sure that we had resources that were going to encourage discourse in the classroom. The students really liked the online platform. There were some comments about how easy to navigate and, oh, I can see where everything is on this one, kind of versus where they were seeing that they have right now. Again, lots of differentiation, and the teachers resource that the teachers commented that these resources really fit our instructional framework. We really wanted to find resources that were going to help us do those best practices in the classroom. And they felt that these two were going to do that. And I love the last comment is that the students loved it. That's just exactly what we want. So pending board approval, our next steps would be tomorrow, we would be communicating with all stakeholders, so staff, families, community. And pending board approval, we would get that purchase order turned around as quick as possible. We would love to have materials in teachers' hands before they leave for the summer. A lot of the teachers have already asked, they're very hungry to have those. The company pretty much assures us that at least the teachers will have digital access to all of the teachers' editions and resources if they wanted to start giving them. But with supply chain demands, we're hopeful that we would still get some hard copies for teachers as well. When they come in, I usually communicate with teachers anyway if they want to stop by in the summer and pick them up anytime they come in. We would be happy to do that as well. And then we also are going to work with the company to get a couple of quotes for their tier 3 intervention resource that really aligns really well with the tier 1 resource, so that when our students in tier 3 are getting interventions, we're also able to make more transferred back into the classroom of what they're doing, what they're using. And there's the English language component that has students that are learning English that would help our EL teachers, so that when they're working on those skills with the EL teachers, there's more transfer back to what they're doing in the classroom. And then we would schedule professional development. So next year, just as we do with any commit or curriculum rollout, this isn't a 1-year committee, it's a 3-year committee. So this first, well, we started last year, so this was a 4-year committee, but next year would be. So last year we did a lot of the research and the learning. This year we really did a lot of looking through the resources and analyzing and choosing. Next year, during the implementation phase, the committee will continue to meet at least once a trimester to bring back feedback from the teams of how it's going, what more professional development do we need. And then year 3, we will continue to meet each trimester to check on the status of sustainability and to see what sorts of things we might need to start to modify or monitor, and just start making sure that our students are responding and it's making an impact on our students' instruction. So to really be able to implement this and have a quality review cycle, I have brought to you quotes for 6-year license. So that really gives us the time to implement next year, try new things, let that be okay with some of that productive struggle, since everything is new for teachers and for students. And then it gives us a few years to really monitor how that's going, modify anything we need, support the teachers, to make sure that they have what they need. And then we can really start to analyze student data and make sure that it's being used effectively and that it's making an impact on student learning before we start another review cycle right away. So our 6-year cycle that we've kind of been doing in Roselle has really been beneficial for us. So these quotes today are 6-year quotes because when we get our prices per year, a lot of these quotes, if we pay for the first year, we pay for the second year, or the third year, we could have just paid for all 6 years, and then they just automatically just renew all of our licenses, automatically send us all our consumables, and then they automatically contact me and say, what professional development do you need this year? So that's been really cost effective for us to be able to purchase multiple year licenses. So to honor the work of the English Language Arts leadership team, I would like to propose that we are seeking board approval tonight to purchase Benchmark Advance for kindergarten through 5th grade and Study Sync for 6th through 8th grade.
Thanks again. I have to say that, but just wondering if the staff, when they had a chance to review, if there's any areas of pushback or questioning to say, hey, what about this? You know, there's a weakness here. And
Yeah.
that was addressed maybe.
Yeah, so when we do our analysis, we have a very courageous and open and transparent conversations. And the first thing we do is we talk about what opportunities might this resource give us in the future that might not see right now as their strength. And so some of those things we already kind of are looking at how would we tackle that. And one of those are that connection to that tier 3 intervention. So when students are going and working on deficit skills, right now the way we're kind of doing it is we're working so hard on meeting the kids where they are, but we really want them to be able to transfer their learning back into the classroom as well. So that's why we're going to try to get a quote to see if those resources, our interventionists, instructional coaches have already gone through those resources and have really analyzed them. But that was one of the areas when we're buying a tier 1 program, we still know we have a need to get more resources to our neediest kids. So that was definitely one. And then another one of those areas that we thought, this does really great scaffolding for our English language learners, but we really want when the kids leave the classroom to go work with those English language teachers, we want there to be a strong connection of what they're doing in the classroom and what they're doing when they're out of the classroom. So it's not isolated skills. So we're trying to address that by looking at the additional resources that are out there as well.
Sure seems like there's some good vision going on by the team.
This was a fantastic team to work with. Because language arts is such a big project, this committee was extremely dedicated and just put in so many hours and work and did a lot of things outside of just working with me.
Question, you could speak a little bit more to like with your friends, resources that'll be available for the teachers. I know you said you wanted to try to get some books in their hand before they go on summer break. I don't know exactly how it is in K through 8. I know in Michael, like you change the textbook, you're kind of starting from scratch with a lot of your lesson plans. If you keep some of your core principles, but you're really starting over at the beginning. So, you know, our teachers deserve like a summer break for that. So I'm just looking at what are type of resources for them so that when they start back, because this is touching every teacher, because it's K through 8, what type of resources will be available to them to help plan.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, there's a lot of teachers that are hungry and they want to get their hands on it and want to do some of those things in. So the company has said like at least all of the teacher resources digitally that they would have access to. If hard copies come in before summer break, they would be able to get those as well. But in the meantime, there are a huge menu of online professional development modules. So if teachers are anxious and want to get started and dive into what that might look like, they can do those on their own time as well anytime this summer. And then we also will have opportunity for teachers that want to can come in this summer for some professional development and some planning time with their teams, where they can sit down and kind of plan out what those first few weeks will look like. We'll be working with a company to have them do some professional development with our teachers in this first few institute days when we come back as well. And then we'll be able to build out through our smart days more pieces of professional development throughout the year, depending on the teacher's need. Our instructional coaches are gonna be digging deep, just like we did when we adopted the new math resource. And they'll be able to provide after-school teacher academies. They'll be able to provide embedded in-classroom support for when teachers want to try some new things and work through some coaching cycles with them to help them as well. And the teachers have been a part of this along the way. And because we have so many people on this committee, there has been someone at every grade level. So when they were piloting lessons, they were sharing how it was going. They were sharing, okay, like this is one thing I'm learning about this program that we want to keep in mind. I know some teachers that weren't on the committee dug into the resources as well, because the people on the committee were getting excited about them, and everybody wants to know what it's going to look like, what it's going to sound like, what it's going to feel like. So we'll have a lot of pieces in play to help our teachers because it is new. It is new, and they're so familiar with digital dashboards and things like that because a lot of our curriculum is like that. They found this to be very teacher friendly and intuitive. So I'm hopeful that it doesn't seem like such a big transition moving from it to a different system. They found this one to be a little bit easier. And then they were really excited about the materials for the kids. That was really their main focus. So even the implementation stumble that we may have as we try new things, they really felt this was really good for the kids, and that's what I think.
Thank you for all your work and the team. I know there's 2 different companies for K through 5 and 6 through 8. Is this still going to be a smooth transition from K to 5 through 6 to 8?
Yeah, so that will be some of the work that I'll be doing with instructional coaches is we'll kind of take a look at the differences, the nuances between the 5th grade and the 6th grade. We have that now with our current resources that we've had for the past few years. It seems to be pretty seamless because students are getting really used to working with dashboards. It's just more of the systems and structures of the program. But the beginning of all of these ELA curriculum resources is you take the first couple of weeks to teach kids the routines, to teach kids the transitions can happen within the classroom. So as long as we're making sure to make those as important as the curriculum, those first few days, those first few weeks, that's really going to set them up for success for the rest of the school year. So we just want to make sure that we're doing that work in front. We don't anticipate it to be a problem, but we will be watching and keep an eye and see what supports the teachers are facing.
Was there any community input after you posted it?
I did have one very excited community member who is a teacher and uses this K-5 resource in their district, and was very kind in thanking the team for all the hard work and bringing forth the resource that person's role in.
Excited to see the comments. They gave more of a fun show.
Any other questions?
Thank you. And we will turn it over to Dr. Harris.
Board members. Documents for the treasurer's report for the month ending March 31st are available in board book. Just want to add some color to some of those documents added to revenue and expenditures. On the revenue side, you'll notice that there's a big jump in the projected surplus for fiscal year 22 over last month, and that is explained by the district receiving $150,000 federal funds from E-rate. E-rate is a federal grant program that we get every year, but not in that amount. That pays for telecommunications and internet connectivity. And E-rate was augmented in this fiscal year by the American Rescue Plan, which is the same federal legislation that we know of. We know better as ESSER 3, but the Emergency Connectivity Fund offered money to school districts such as ours to purchase devices for remote learning. And we did purchase some devices last summer, the board approved, and we did not expect that EA would be picking up that check. And it turns out that we didn't budget for that accordingly. And then we were pleased to learn in August or maybe maybe September, that we would be getting some money from E-rate to pay for these devices, which devices are not typically, have not ever been eligible for E-rate before. That's a huge windfall for the district of $150,000 that will be going out the door. Probably at the May board meeting, we'll be approving paying the rest of the lease for the 3-year lease for those devices. So that there will be an expenditure to go along with that. That is right now pretty significant surplus because of that money comes from the federal government. Yeah, another couple of things just the board needs to think about, big picture, to finish out this fiscal year and going into next fiscal year. Speaking of unbudgeted expenses, as the board is well aware that we did just sell $981,000, or excuse me, about $1 million in bonds to pay for $981,000 of solar projects. That is, the money will be received by the district in the next month. I think early May, but a lot of the expenditures will come. Some of them will come this year, about $300,000, but the rest of it, about $681,000, will be coming in fiscal year 23. So all of these big things I'm talking about, these big price tags that we didn't budget for, it calls for, in my opinion, an amended budget, which will be bringing to the finance committee at the May meeting, and then the full board later the next week, and then with ratification by the board or adoption by the board at the June meeting, just to be more precise with our budget. We've had some big swings. More to come on that, and then think about next year. Now we are realizing $1 million of revenue this year with to pay for projects that 2/3 of it won't be paid until next year. So at this time, we'll look to the community, I guess, that we'll be probably most certainly passing a deficit budget in 2023, several $100s at least in deficit. But that's the board will be reminded at the time that you have to remember that money was paid for with the bond proceeds that we received in fiscal year 22, but we will not be actually paying for the remainder of the project in fiscal year 23. Lastly, just one thing that gets me excited as I look at the books every month is we're actually starting to see a little bit of resuscitation to our investment revenue. Before I came here before the pandemic, our investment revenue was 6 figures, and this year in fiscal year 22, I budgeted 5,000, and I didn't think we were going to come close to that. But as I'm sure you're aware, in the news you've heard about the Federal Reserve raising key benchmark rates to combat inflation, and there was a 25 basis point increase to benchmark rate, and all of a sudden we're starting to see the life return to our investment portfolio. That will hopefully continue into future months. Like I said in my report, we received more investment revenue in March than we did in the prior 4 months combined. And if the word on the street is that there will be more rate hikes this year, as long as the Fed approves that, thinking that the economy can withstand it, and possibly even more aggressive than just 25 basis points. So this is, it's a double-edged sword, of course, with interest rates going up for our entire economy, but at least for our purposes, we will actually start to see some investment revenue, meaningful investment revenue again. To remind the board, we are, as a public entity, we are very limited in what we actually can invest in. So investment rates are historically low, near zero. That affects us like they have been since the pandemic started. We can't invest in Bitcoin. We can't invest.
Please don't.
We can't go in Elon and try to take over Twitter. So we're very, very conservative with our investments, and we live and die with that with the Federal Reserve. At this time, that's the conclusion of my presentation. Question for you.
The deficit budget you were talking about, you said it would be deficit of several $100. Is it $100?
I'm not to say. If I said $100, I would
Is it $100? I'm like, why?
I wouldn't waste your time talking about $100. Just a couple $100,000 because there's $681,000 in projects that we're going to be paid for this year, but the money won't be going out the door next year.
I would like to just make one comment before the board asks any questions. I really just want to compliment Greg. E-rate was not something the district took advantage of for many years, and Greg, working in close partnership with Dialpad, have really done an excellent job of making the most of finding alternate sources to fund some of the work that would have otherwise come out of our district budget, so.
And it's little things that, I can explain the money piece of it. A lot of the times I can't explain the technology piece of it, but like, there's things that we're paying for. It's not, it's not an unsubstantial number that's coming in because of your funds going after them.
I was gonna ask about that, so thank you. Money, so
Yes.
it should be involved in this. And I just wanted to clarify, Greg, the 150 that we're gonna pay, that's gonna release funds. We're paying ahead, so.
So, it's a 3-year lease. We've already paid the first $100,000 lease. And then we're gonna, in the next month, we're gonna pay the remaining 100. And that puts us free and clear for year 2 and 3 of the lease. So that is a benefit for fiscal year 23.
And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Right. Moving on to the approval of consent agenda items. Would any member of the board like any of the consent agenda items removed from the consent agenda as discussed and discussed separately? Not, I need a motion.
I move that the board approve the consent agenda items as presented.
A second.
Discussion. Okay, roll call.
Juris.
Aye.
Zurich.
Aye.
McGowan.
Aye.
Kami.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Later.
Action items. First. Approval of the 2021-2022 final school calendar. Can I get a motion?
I move that the board approve the 2021-2022 final school calendar as presented.
Second. Any discussion?
Yes, that includes our one snow day that we took, and so we will finish the school year on Friday, May 27th. Thank you, Joanne. May 27th, which is a short attendance day for students, and more details will be coming out from our principals.
Next, approval of the food service contract with Preferred Meal Services for 2022-2023 school year. Can I get a motion?
Oh, wait, do we
We didn't vote on that. Oh, sorry.
Ready?
Throw something at me.
Kami.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
McGowan.
Aye.
Juris.
Aye.
Later.
Aye.
Agnes.
Aye.
Zurich.
Aye. I'm not thinking anything.
Now we will move to the approval of the food service contract with Preferred Meal Services for 2022-2023 school year. Can I get a motion?
I move that the board approve the food service contract with Preferred Meal Services for the 2022-2023 school year.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mary, does this include, like this year, I know that there's like the free lunch thing, is this part of that?
Well, this approves them as our vendor, and then we watch for guidance and regulations that come out. So the guidance to give all students lunch for free, if they asked for it, that comes from the feds.
But it's the same provider.
Yes, same provider.
Providers.
No.
Commentary on how the food is from them.
I mean, school lunches overall leave a lot to be desired regardless of the vendor. But I would say the service that we receive from Preferred Meals, food service happens to be one of those areas as a small district where it's often very difficult to get bids when you go out for bid. And I will say that Preferred has worked with us very closely. You might recall that when we first had the stay-at-home order in March of 2020. Originally, what they were going to provide to us, I didn't feel like met the needs of our families at all. And that first weekend, our admin team was out getting food for our families, and Preferred came around and came back with another option. So they are very supportive of us.
Roll call. Vote.
Agnes.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
McGowan.
Aye.
Tammy?
Aye.
Liz? Aye. Claire?
Aye.
Sarah?
Okay, moving to approval of lease for copiers and printers with Image Tech as presented. Can I get a motion, please?
I move that the board approve the lease for copiers and printers with Image Tech as presented.
Discussion?
Does this include support? If anything were to break?
Yes.
Okay.
Same.
Yes, same vendor.
Roll call. Vote.
Tammy?
Aye.
Zurich?
Aye.
McGowan?
Aye.
Durst?
Aye.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Layer?
Aye.
Agnes?
Aye.
Approve the new server installation by Diopath in the amount of $25,437.20.
Move that the board approve the new server installation by Diopath in the amount of $25,437.20 as submitted.
Discussion?
This is just regular maintenance of our network, both of the next, this one and the next action item.
Roll call.
Layer?
Aye.
Agnes?
Aye.
McGowan?
Aye.
Tammy?
Aye.
Durst? Aye. Hubbard?
Aye.
Zurich?
Approve switch refresh project with Diopath at a cost of $53,684.79. Can I get a motion? There's a lot of them here.
I know, you're on it. I move that the board approve the switch refresh project at a cost of $53,684.79 as submitted.
Second. Discussion? Done?
Mayor, do you meet with them before?
We meet with them once a month.
That's one of
Can you say what is this switch?
Ask them. Yeah.
Oh, Greg knows. Greg knows.
Let me say.
You thought you were done.
You're not gonna get a very. But the switch is over the internet. And then go out to all different locations around the district. And it's internet connectivity, that's the best I can. Like I said, I don't understand these,
Thanks, Greg.
Necessary.
Yes, oh, yes. Yes, it is.
Mission critical.
That, can I get a roll call vote?
Layer?
Aye.
Hubbard?
Aye.
McGowan? Tammy?
Aye.
Durst?
Aye.
Agnes? Zurich?
Aye. Okay, moving to approval to display social studies resources. Can I get a motion?
I move that the board approve the display of social studies resources.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Layer?
Aye.
McGowan?
Aye.
Tammy?
Aye.
Durst? Agnes?
Aye.
Zurich?
Aye. That's one, approval of the ELA curriculum resources. I get a motion, please.
I move that the board approve the ELA curriculum resource and the cost of $120,000, or no. $531.60 to Benchmark Education and $39,556.37 to McGraw-Hill.
Second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Durst?
Aye.
Zurich?
Aye.
McGowan?
Aye.
Tammy?
Aye.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Layer?
Aye.
Agnes?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to board communication.
I had a question about the finance subcommittee. Are those meetings still being live streamed?
Yes.
What is the date of the May? meeting? The May Finance Committee meeting?
Usually the
It's usually like the
week
third.
prior to the.
What day? Move around?
Thursday. It's usually the Thursday before a
May
board
12th.
meeting. May 12th, thank you, Greg.
I just wanted to take a second to, on behalf of the board, thank Steve Zurich for his leadership the last 2 years. Obviously, very challenging time for everybody, the district, board, and so, you can wake up now. But, seriously, the board is very pleased with your leadership. We're moving on, but we'll always resort back to the way you led us, and we appreciate the way you did it and the way you represented us. Thank you. Okay, social media post of the month.
All right, this time I don't have a visual post. I just really am so excited to know that we are bringing back our play at the middle school. Sally Cotter and the Censored Stone will be playing this weekend, Friday and Saturday nights. It just feels regular to know that we are having this, and I just want to thank Mrs. Colleen Peters, who takes the lead on working with our kids. Ms. Kerr and Mr. Cash also provided great support, so we are looking forward to great performances from our kids.
Okay, the board's going to move into closed session. Patient discipline, performance, or dismissal of employees of the public body, 5 ILCS 120/2C10, the placement of students in special education programs and other matters relating to individual students, and 5 ILCS 120-2C11, litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of a particular body, public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for finding shall be recorded and entered into minutes of the closed meeting with no actions to be taken.
I just want to make one correction. We will be back and taking action only on 5 ILCS 120-2C10, placement of students in special education programs and other matters relating to individual students.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, please?
I move that the board adjourn to closed session at 8:19 PM pursuant to 5 ILCS 120-2C1. The appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, and performance or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. 5 ILCS 120-2C10, the placement of students in special education programs and other matters relating to individual students. And 5 ILCS 120-2C11, litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting with no action taken.
I'll second.
Roll call, vote.
Magnus? Aye.
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 You do not need